Hi, sweet ones. This is Grandma Kitty, and I need to tell you about Kelly and Kenny, a story that will break your heart, but also remind you how precious love truly is. For 50-year-old Kelly Coppola and 53-year-old Kenneth Pohlman, the summer of 2024 had brought pure joy. Both had survived heartbreaking pain. Kelly from a toxic marriage and bitter divorce, Kenny from losing his beloved wife to cancer 17 years before. When they discovered each other, their families said they had never seen either of them so happy. Their love was building something wonderful, a blended family that brought together Kenny's children, Brianna, 25, Tyler, 21, and Jenna, 14, with Kelly's 15-year-old daughter, Gianna. But their fresh start at happiness had drawn the fury of someone who felt Kelly didn't deserve to be loved. Someone who had been plotting his revenge for months. Someone who would do anything to destroy what they had created together. Stay with me, darlings. Hit that subscribe button because this story needs to be heard, and I promise to tell it with all the love and respect that Kelly and Kenny deserve. Their story matters. Kelly Jean Coppola was born in 1974 and grew up on Long Island with her parents, John and Karen. From the very beginning, she was what her family lovingly called a true daddy's girl. Her sister-in-law, Lori Patton, who started dating Kelly's brother Ryan back in high school, said Kelly shared an unbreakable bond with both of her parents. She phoned her mother every single day and was her father's pride and joy. Kelly attended Sachem High School alongside her two brothers, Ryan and Kyle. Lori, who had known Kelly for nearly 3 decades, described her as naturally beautiful, full of energy, and always surrounded by friends. Kelly had a gift for keeping connections strong. She was the kind of person who never lost touch, always lighting up a room with her bubbly spirit and constant smile. Her closeness extended to her extended family as well, including her stepbrother Keith and stepsister Courtney. She never forgot a birthday, never skipped reaching out to those she loved. To her nieces and nephews, she was the best auntie ever, the one who never missed a soccer match, a school play, or any big moment. After finishing high school, Kelly followed a familiar path. She met Daniel Coppola, and the two later married. Their greatest joy came when they welcomed a daughter, Gianna, who quickly became the center of Kelly's entire world. For a while, everything appeared ordinary. From the outside, Kelly worked in accounting at a media company, balancing her professional life with her role as a mother. She poured herself into raising Gianna, making sure she never missed a cheerleading event or school activity. Lori remembered that their lives often revolved around cheer competitions, and Kelly was always there, front and center. Her main goal was to make sure Gianna had everything she needed: vacations, city trips, theme parks like Great Adventure and Disney World. Kelly wanted her daughter's happiness above all, but behind the picture of a normal family, Kelly was hurting. Those closest to her knew the marriage with Daniel was troubled. Kelly rarely shared her struggles openly, but her family later described Daniel as abusive. Police records eventually confirmed there had been at least one domestic call during their marriage, though it was marked non-criminal. To her loved ones, however, the reality was far darker than paperwork suggested. Eventually, Kelly made the brave decision to leave. The divorce was bitter, long, and filled with conflict. Detective Lieutenant Kevin Burr later said, apparently, the divorce is final. Apparently, it was a contentious divorce. What Kelly didn't realize then was just how much Daniel resented her and blamed her for what he saw as his financial downfall. His anger grew like a slow fire, becoming more dangerous over time. By 2022 or 2023, the divorce was finalized, giving Kelly the freedom she had long needed. To her, it meant an escape from years of pain and the chance to focus on Gianna and on herself. Through it all, she leaned on her family and stayed connected. She emerged from that storm ready to start fresh, still working, raising her daughter, and keeping close ties with friends. What Kelly didn't yet know was that her new path would soon bring her to someone who would completely change her life. Kenneth Pohlman Jr., known to everyone simply as Kenny, had his own story of resilience. He was the oldest of four siblings, followed by John, Tony, Ann, and Tommy. His brother Tommy remembered that as they grew up on Long Island, they were never just John or Tommy to others. They were always known as Kenny Pohlman's little brother or little sister. The Pullman children grew up in a simpler time before phones and video games ruled the day. Their childhood was filled with afternoons spent outside playing stickball, football, and kickball with the neighborhood kids, always racing home when the streetlights came on. Kenny graduated from SUNY Old Westbury and went on to build a successful career in IT. For 18 years, he worked as a senior account executive at Converge Technology Group. His brother Tommy later said, "If you knew Kenny, you loved him. And if you didn't, you missed out." He had such a love for life. But above his work, Kenny was most proud of being a father. He married young, and with his first wife, Kim, he had two children, Brianna and Tyler. Together, they built a happy, loving home. Then tragedy struck. In the mid 2000s, Kim was diagnosed with a rare cancer. Despite her strength, she eventually passed away in 2007, leaving Kenny to raise their two young children alone. After Kim's death, Kenny devoted himself entirely to being the best father he could be. He also honored her memory by starting the Pohlman Foundation, which raised money for cancer research. In time, Kenny remarried and welcomed his youngest daughter, Jenna. The Pullmans traveled together, going on cruises, Disney trips, and other vacations. But even that second marriage eventually ended, and Kenny once again found himself raising his children on his own. By 2023, about a year and a half before his death, Kenny was living as a single father again, carrying his past losses, but still showing his kids the love and dedication that defined him. By around 2023, about a year and a half before his death, Kenny met Kelly Coppola. Both were single parents who had endured deep heartbreak. Both were ready for a new beginning. When they came together, it was like two puzzle pieces finally finding their perfect match. Kenny's father described them as true soulmates. He said Kenny brought out the best in Kelly, and she did the same for him. It was like they had both been given a second chance. "My son lost his wife 17 years ago," he added, "and then he found Kelly." Kelly's loved ones noticed the change too. Lori Patton explained that Kelly was in love again for the first time in years. She accepted Kenny's family, and in return, Kenny welcomed Gianna and Kelly's relatives as if they were his own. They both valued family deeply, and it showed. Lori said the time Kelly shared with Kenny was the happiest she had ever seen her. "We've never seen her with anyone who treated her so well," she said. The two decided to get a home together. They moved into a stunning 6-bedroom house worth $1,100,000 on Brasswood Road in Street James. It wasn't just a house. It was the base for their blended family. Kenny's children, Brianna, who was 25, Tyler, who was 21, and Jenna, who was 14, welcomed Kelly and 15-year-old Gianna with open hearts. Kenny's brother Tommy wanted to make sure people understood how serious this relationship really was. He said, "Some people call Kenny the new boyfriend or the new guy. That's not what this was." Kenny and his family fully welcomed Kelly and her family into their home. He wasn't just her boyfriend. This was two families becoming one, building something beautiful from the brokenness of their past. In June 2024, Kenny threw Kelly a beautiful 50th birthday celebration for her family. Watching Kelly so full of joy after years of hardship with Daniel was everything they had hoped for. Even though Kelly and Kenny never officially married, their devotion to each other and their children was complete. They were planning for the future, creating a household full of love and laughter. Tommy later said, I want people to remember the love they had for each other when they died, the love Kenny had for his family and friends, and the love we all had for him. He went on, no matter the situation, divorced or not divorced, people deserve happiness. They died in love. If there's anything to take from this, it's that they left this world loving one another. But there was one person who couldn't handle Kelly and Kenny's happiness. Her ex-husband, Daniel Coppola, watched her new life with growing bitterness and rage. Once Daniel found out about Kelly's relationship with Kenny, the threats began. According to Kenny's family, Daniel made multiple threats. They knew he was angry and jealous, but none of them could imagine just how dangerous his jealousy would become. What they didn't realize was that Daniel had been planning his revenge for months. August 28th, 2024, was a Wednesday night in the quiet, wealthy area of Street James on Long Island. At the Brasswood Road home, Kelly and Kenny were winding down for the night. That house had become a safe haven for their family, a place where love had finally won after years of struggle. Inside, 15-year-old Gianna was at home too, likely preparing for another day at Smithtown High School East, where she was a cheerleader with the Long Island Cheer Diamonds. It should have been just another ordinary evening in their new life. But only 3 miles away, at his house on Harbor Road in head of the harbor, Daniel Coppola was putting his deadly plan into motion. Earlier that night, Daniel had been driving with Gianna in the car. His behavior was out of control. Reckless driving, hitting objects, scaring her badly. The teen was so frightened she begged him to take her back to her mother's house. Daniel agreed, but when he dropped her off at the Brasswood Road home, he didn't leave. At around 11:30 p.m., Daniel texted his 15-year-old daughter asking where Kenny's bedroom was. Then he told her to come outside and get in his car. Gianna, not realizing what he was planning, did as he said. What she didn't know was that she was about to be dragged into the worst night of her life. With Gianna waiting in his car, Daniel hid behind a bush near the front of the house. He fired through the lock on the front door and forced his way inside. Upstairs, he found Kelly and Kenny. The attack was quick and merciless. Both were shot to death. In his rush to escape, Daniel left behind his sandals at the scene. When he got back to the car, his daughter was waiting. He then told her words no child should ever hear, "I killed your mother and Kenny." The short 3-mile drive back to his Harbor Road home was a nightmare for Gianna. As Daniel drove, she frantically texted her friends, "I don't know what my father did. I don't know how my mother is." Her friends tried to call Kelly, but got no response. They knew something was horribly wrong. At 11:45 p.m., Gianna called 911 from her father's house. She told them her father was threatening to kill himself with a gun. Police rushed to Harbor Road. At 11:54 p.m., Gianna's worried friends also called 911, telling dispatchers that she had left her mom's home with her dad without permission. When officers got to Daniel's house, they found him and took him into custody over his suicide threats. Gianna showed them where he had hidden a black semi-automatic handgun inside the home. Meanwhile, other officers headed to the Brasswood Roadhouse. There, they discovered the horrifying truth. The front door had been forced open. Inside, Kelly and Kenny were both dead from gunshot wounds. As dawn broke on Thursday, August 29th, the scale of the tragedy became clear. Police secured both crime scenes, Daniel's house on Harbor Road and the murder scene at Brasswood Road. What investigators uncovered left them stunned. At Daniel's home, they found typed documents laying out his murder plan in chilling, precise detail. One statement read, "I am of sound mind, and I know exactly what I am going to do." They also found bullets Daniel had marked with the names of everyone tied to his divorce. Not only Kelly and Kenny, but also both divorce lawyers. In court later, Assistant District Attorney Eric Abulafia revealed that Daniel had even labeled a bullet with his own attorney's name. The evidence showed Daniel squarely blamed Kelly for what he saw as his financial downfall. His hatred spread beyond her to anyone he believed was responsible for his misery. It became clear he had been plotting not just murder, but the possibility of a far bigger massacre targeting everyone connected to his divorce. If you were on that list, a lawyer, a friend, or even family, would you have ever seen it coming? Or do you think you would have trusted him right up until the end? At the Brasswood Road scene, detectives located Daniel's sandals. One of them actually ended up beneath Kenneth's body. Kenny's brother, Tommy, later said, "My brother died trying to protect Kelly." Even in his final moments, Kenny was shielding the woman he loved. Officers' body-worn cameras also captured Daniel's immediate admission when they first detained him. Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney described the killings as a calculated ambush and execution. On August 29, 2024, Daniel was formally booked on 2 counts of second-degree murder. At his arraignment the next day, August 30th, he entered a not guilty plea and was held without bail. The courtroom was packed with grieving relatives and friends. Emotion spilled over as someone in the gallery shouted that Daniel was a murderer. Kelly's father, John Patton, said the family's grief was overwhelming. As prosecutors sifted through what they said was substantial proof of planning, charges were elevated on September 6 to 4 counts of first-degree murder. If found guilty, Daniel would face life in prison with no possibility of parole. The case then veered when Daniel suffered a self-inflicted spinal injury while on suicide watch at the Suffolk County Jail. He needed surgery and later appeared before the court from a hospital bed. His lawyer, Stephen Peter, said the injury happened in custody and doctors were still assessing it, adding, "I don't think anyone charged with murder is in a positive mental state." The slayings sent shockwaves through Long Island. Community support arrived fast and in force. A GoFundMe called Kenny's Kids, launched by his employer, Converge Technology Group, to aid his 3 children, climbed past $148,000, nearing its $150,000 target. Kelly's family created a separate fundraiser, Support Gianna After Tragic Loss, to help the traumatized 15-year-old. It drew more than $96,000 in only 5 days, with many donations exceeding $1,000 from people moved by the tragedy. Kenny's funeral mass took place September 3rd at St. Elizabeth of Hungary Church in Melville, drawing hundreds. Loved ones remembered him as everyone's friend. His grin and upbeat spirit were contagious. Kelly's wake and services followed at Maloney's Holbrook Funeral Home on September 4th to 5th, where mourners celebrated her bright energy and ever-present smile. Determined to keep his brother's memory from being defined by violence, Tommy Pohlman vowed, "We will not let a heinous murderer overshadow Kenny's life and legacy. First and foremost, we have his kids. They will be cared for." He added, "If I could, I would tell him I love him one more time." Speaking for his siblings, he said it was an honor to be known as Kenny Pohlman's little brother and that they always would be. For Gianna, the horror of that night, being unknowingly used in her father's plan and hearing his confession, defies comprehension. The teen cheerleader now lives with relatives, surrounded by extended family and a supportive community as she works through the trauma of losing her mother so violently. In the end, the love at the center of this story, imperfect and cut short, remains its strongest truth.
One day or one night, an evil monster decided to break in his house and kill them in cold blood.